makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode of Female Founders, we are going to have a conversation with Jessica Rebelo. She is the founder of Unleashed Potential Life Coaching, helping people emerge from their trauma and heal. Hi Jessica, you are a therapist and life coach and founder of Unleashed Potential Life Coaching. I am excited, but also the name. I'm super interested in learning more about the name as well. So, what led you to become a therapist?
So I was born and raised Long Island, New York, and I experienced some difficult experiences growing up. One being an abusive relationship, and I am a domestic violence survivor. And from there, I wanted to just help men and women and people who live similar experiences to and I just wanted to just be a force of change in other people's lives.
Wow, that's terrific. I love the fact that you take in your life, what's happened to you in your life, and you turn it to something great. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people would just let that pull them down for the rest of their life. But you turn yours around and said, hey, what happened to me happened, but I can help others so that they can get out of it the same way I get out of it. So I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. So how did the idea of starting your own business come to you?
So I graduated with my bachelor's, and I also graduated with my master's from Stony Brook University. And I worked for a nonprofit working with domestic violence victims for a few years. And then from there, I went on and I worked at other private practices, working more of like a scope within trauma, not just domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And from there, I just wanted to kind of bring my own twist to things because I'm also a life coach and a therapist. And I felt just being a therapist kind of held me back from being exactly my most authentic self and doing exactly what I wanted to do with my clients. So I felt like the dual approach would be perfect. And I always had a dream to own my own practice.
Wow, that's excellent. So you started at Unleashed Potential and Life Coaching. So you help with abusive relationships and also domestic violence, right?
Yep. So I work with sexual assault victims. I work with domestic violence, and I graduated with a specialization in trauma. So I work with all trauma and just a trauma-informed lens. So, trauma-informed, just like treating every client that I work with, knowing that most people do have some type of trauma in their history and treating them with the fragility of that. I also am a firm believer, and it's kind of my slogan within my business of turning pain into power. So kind of similar to what you were saying earlier of I take my experience and I own it, and it's part of my story and it's part of my narrative, and it's made me to who I am today. So I don't feel sorry for myself. I don't feel badly that I've experienced that. I'm actually almost grateful that I experienced that because it led me to be who I am.
Exactly. I agree. And can you tell us about the company and the services it offers?
Yep. So my business is all virtual online coaching and or therapy. I believe that people receiving services or receiving help usually are able to be more vulnerable, and it's more accessible when they're in their own home and it's to their own schedule. So when they don't need to show up at a therapist office or a life coach practice, it's a little bit easier. So we offer one-on-one coaching, and we also offer, we have a group running right now. So we also offer group coaching. So depending on what the person's looking for, depending on what they need, we go from there.
Okay. And then when is your services based only in the United States, or can they be any country or any state? How does it actually work when it's come to where they can be?
So because it's a life coaching practice, I am able to see clients from wherever country, wherever state. There's no legal bound to that, which also made me want to more open up life coaching practice just because I was able to reach more people, not just people from New York State.
Do you have the therapist and then also, the therapy and plus the life coach separately, or is it something that you bound them together to make it stronger?
So I bound it together to make it stronger. So I have, myself, I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm also a trauma-informed life coach. And then I have someone else who also works under me, and she's just a life coach. She doesn't have the therapy background.
Wow, this is awesome.
Thank you.
I love it. I love what you're doing. It's just great. So, speaking openly about, issue that we face, especially as women, when we face like domestic violence or rape or any type of thing, sometimes we don't want to talk about them. It's like uncomfortable for us, right? So what are the approaches that you adopt in creating connection with them so to make them open to you?
So I pride myself on not being above somebody when I work with them just because I'm the professional, right? Like I believe that like you and I are both equals, and I'm honored that you're allowing me to come take this journey of healing with you, right? So like, I don't feel like I know it all. I don't feel like I know better than you. Like this is your story or your experience, and you're just inviting me into it. I pride myself on a therapeutic alliance or just a bonded alliance with my clients. So I offer, which a lot of practices don't, like I offer out of session texting or out of session emailing to me if they're just having a difficult time. Like I try to be just a very real person in their lives. And if they need me, I want to be accessible for them without fostering a dependence on me.
Wow. So can you tell us about how the group coaching works when you have like a group?
Yeah. So right now I have it's all women, which is actually pretty cool that it worked out that way. So it's an intimate group right now. It's under 10 people, and it's not all people who have the same experiences. It's just people who are dealing with different goals or dealing with different hurdles. And it's really cool to see people come together and just share from their different experiences, how they handled something, or giving advice for like, oh, hey, I think you should do it this way, or what about that way? It's very cool to see different perspectives and different experiences kind of join together to, just like be the best version of yourself.
So pretty much it's not you at this point that's just saying this will work better if you go that way, but it's also the group themselves, the things that they went through, they solved it already, they're giving that advice as well.
Exactly.
I like that. It's not just your idea. It's not just your point of view.
No, because I think we're all so valuable with how we've experience different things or how we work through different things, or what works for me doesn't necessarily going to work for you, right? Like we're two very different people with different experiences that I feel like bringing that all together, you're just getting different approaches and different ideas, and you're going to at the end of the day pick what works best for you.
Exactly. So what about the one-on-one? How does that work? Do you like meet once a week or once a month or as they need it?
So typically my sessions run once a week. They're usually 60-minute sessions. Some people, if they can't make once a week fit into their schedule, I will do biweekly sessions with them just for scheduling purposes. But yes, it is once a week. And I have some clients, I always go over goals and what they want to achieve during working with me. So I have some clients that will be with me for 3 months. I have some clients that will be with me for 6 months. But then I also have some clients on my schedule now who have been with me for 6 years. You know what I mean? So it's all dependent on whatever the client wants and what they want to work with and how often they want sessions or services with me.
Why would someone, when will, instead of saying why, so when will someone need to stay with you for that long, like 6 years?
I also work with a lot of teenagers. So the two specifically that have been with me the longest, they met me when they were in high school and now they're in college, and just issues change, you know what I mean? Especially when they're that young. So it's just different life experiences depending where you are of like, yes, we used to talk about anxiety when you're in high school, but now you're in college and you're learning how to date and you're learning how to have a healthy relationship and just navigating the waters around that. So I feel like we change. We should change. So it depends on what they want to work on.
We change a lot, actually. We just do.
Oh, yeah. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
It is. Yes, it is. It is a good thing. you're a therapist and a life coach as well. So how do you leverage both skills to help your client heal as well as grow?
So as a life coach, typically life coaches focus on present issues and like working from the now and moving forward and just like what goals and, a forward direction they want to work on. And as a therapist, we are trained to focus on the past and to focus on events that have happened already, or to focus on childhood and like how that has shaped us to being who we are today. So I kind of just blend them together and like, yes, the past is important, right? Like what we've experienced is important. What we do with that information is important, but so is the present and so is the future, right? I don't feel like one is more important than the other. I feel like they're kind of all equals and we just need to make them merge to figure out where to go from there.
Exactly. So you never have client that doesn't want to leave the past, that just want to be stuck into the past instead of staying current?
So I do. And I think that's sometimes people's human nature. I think some of us are afraid to let go of the past or they're afraid to move forward. I am a very real person. And like I always tell people who start working with me of like, we are going to work together, right? Like we are going to change throughout this process. Like I am not here to waste your time. Like I want what's best for you and to push you forward. So I do challenge my clients and I do push them to be the best versions of them. And I am very honest if I feel like someone is stuck or if they're self-sabotaging or if they're getting in their own way, like I have no problem sharing that with you, or else I'm wasting your time if I didn't share that with you.
Do you have some sort of technique to actually get them unstuck somehow?
So I do. I am a firm believer in like pointing out what is, right? Like I think it's important to label like this is a behavior that's maladaptive, that's not serving you anymore. And like we need to work through that. What do you need to work through that? Right? Like the saying like call a spade, but I call a spade of like, okay, this is definitely getting in your way. How can I help you get out of your own way?
Wow. So when it comes to domestic violence, usually women tend to take the blame for it and not speaking openly about it. How do you encourage them to come forward and start their healing process?
So domestic violence in that population is a very fragile population because like statistically, it takes a woman 1 in 8 times to leave an abusive relationship. And I get both men and women, but I get clients in different phases of their relationship, right? Like I have some people who meet with me who don't want to leave their abuser and who aren't ready to leave their abuser. And I wouldn't challenge them to do so. I would just support them and try to help them create the safest atmosphere possible to stay within that situation. Because it's not fair for me to tell someone they have to leave their current situation, right? Like we could point out what's negative, we could point out what's unhealthy, we could point out what's safe, but like it's not my life at the end of the day, it's theirs. So depending on where the person is depending on the level of support and the type of support that I then provide them.
So when you said both men and women domestic violence, are you saying that men also will go through domestic violence?
Yes. So society as a whole, I think when we hear of domestic violence or a domestic violence victim, we always assume it's just women. And that's not true. There's countless men who are also victims of domestic violence. And there's such a stigma in society that prevents them from speaking up or prevents them for accessing help or asking, just even admitting like my partner is abusive to me as a male. You know what I mean? Like there's a big ego with that becomes really challenging.
I will never think of that at all. So what's the difference between the two? Like you have a female that comes say, hey, I'm in a domestic violence issue, I need your help, compared to a male coming to you said, my wife is the one treating me the bad way. So do you find men also as emotional as women, or?
So I do find men as emotional. I feel like some men don't know how to be emotional within it, or they're afraid to be emotional within it, or they feel like, the saying like men don't cry. You know what I mean? Like I feel like sometimes our society raises men to believe that they don't have emotions and they can't actually express them the way that they need to be expressed. So working with male is actually a little bit more challenging because you have to break the societal boundaries and the societal barriers to get them to at least like open up to exactly how the relationship's affecting them without them feeling like immense shame attached to it.
Wow. And then do you feel like they're more comfortable working with a woman therapist compared to a male? I mean, like to a man therapist?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I think it's personality, right? And I think that's with any issue, not just domestic violence. Like I think, some people open up easier to women, some people open up easier to men. I think it just depends on the person and, their type of personality.
That's true. You make a point there. So you professionally journey has been a little bit harsh, You went through a lot. By a personal story of trauma and abuse, it must have been tough to turn pain into power. Can you tell us how you overcome all that to become the person you are today?
Yeah. So I grew up with a fantastic, family support system. And I have, my parents are still together today. I have an older sister and they've all been, tremendous in my own growth. But then I also reached out and got my own therapy and worked on my own healing. And I met with a therapist for a while to talk about what that what an abusive relationship does to you. And I guess like I'm a bit of like a tough personality and like I refuse to let things bring me down, right? Like I love challenges and I love looking inward and saying like, okay, how is this affecting me? And like, I need to move forward from that. But it's a process. It's definitely, I think healing within anything is difficult. So yeah, it was challenging, but we're all capable of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're all capable of turning pain into power. We're all capable of working through things that have happened to us that we don't really necessarily have control over.
Yes, I agree. But I know that you went through domestic violence and abuse. Can you give us a summary of what happened exactly?
Yeah. So I met my abuser going into high school. And it was my first relationship. And, going into high school, we are super young, we are super impressionable. And I was so naive to the world because I'd never had a relationship before. And we ended up staying together for 4 years. So like my entire high school career. But like any other abusive relationship, it doesn't start with being physically abusive, right? Like there is a lot of manipulation and there is a lot of brainwashing. And I feel like abusers just attack your self-esteem to make you feel like you don't deserve any better than whatever the relationship is. Plus, I didn't have anything to compare it to because I've never experienced a relationship prior to that. So I think there was years that I didn't even realize it was an abusive relationship. Like I just, for whatever reason, thought that was like normal or that was okay or that was his own issues and it wasn't because of me. You know what I mean? So like I didn't realize it for a while. And then I don't even know. I think one day I just like woke up and was like, I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Like this is just too much for me. And I ended it and I'm thankful to do that. But yeah, that was kind of how it happened.
Wow, you're ending it early, because I felt like if you stay longer, it could have get worse.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
When you say that you turned it to power, you really did, because it's like, I mean, like some people don't have the capability to say, hey, I'm going to stop this. It's like they can't, especially after 4 years, they can't walk away from it. They feel like they are stuck into this and this is it for the rest of their life. I mean, like just for you to be able to say, hey, no, this is not right. And I need to step away from it. It's like a big thing because a lot of people don't know, they really don't know how to do that.
Thank you. I think a lot of us too, we get so comfortable with being content, right? Yes. And like we think being content is good enough and that's all we want or that's all we deserve. I also think a lot of people struggle with like self-worth and self-deserving, like what we actually what we actually deserve in life. And change is okay. Change is scary and like it's unpredictable and it's unknown and we don't have control over the change, but like it's so rewarding to work through something that you thought maybe would kill you or you thought would you would never get out of, right? Like think about like the self-preservation and the resilience to actually work through something and be like, oh my gosh, I did that on my own. Like you're reborn, you're a new person. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Yes, it is. And you work with when you work with domestic violence survivors, especially sexual assault. So how exactly do you do that online? Because the privacy and things, especially if they're still in their relationship, they might have to be careful using the internet, so they don't know that they're getting help. So how exactly do you take that step to make sure that the safety stay in place?
So I always create a safety plan with every like domestic violence abuse victim I work with, because you bring up a great point. Like you never want the abuser to find out that they're accessing services or they're accessing therapy or life coaching or whatever is it, because that will put them in a more dangerous situation. So I have a extensive safety plan that I go over with them. And like, we go over every scenario of like, how are we going to have sessions? I have some clients that it's not safe to do a video session, so we only do phone sessions. I have other clients that it's not safe for me to reach out to them, to text them ever. So I don't, right? Like each person is different depending on their situation and what is safe and what isn't safe. But like safety is always the number one priority when working with someone within this population.
So you kind of like, you get to understand the client situation so you can make it a safe place for them to like, okay, we can't text or we can't use a video because he might pop up behind you. Maybe you need to be on a phone call outside of the home so he doesn't see you, certain things like that.
Exactly. And I think this is where this population gets so fragile, is because everyone is so different, right? Yes. Every relationship is so different. So what one person needs, the other person doesn't, or what I can do with one, I can't do with the next. So I think as a therapist or as a life coach working within this population, like we have to be super flexible to the client's needs and the client's wants, because like that's what's running the show within it. You know what I mean? Because like you have to maintain safety or else it's never going to work.
Things can get very, very, very bad.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes. So I know that you have a staff member working under you right now. Do you plan on bringing more?
I'm definitely open to it. I'm definitely, I'm open to seeing how big my business will grow and how many more people we could help. I would love to help the world if I could. So yes, I'm definitely open to it.
So now, I'm curious to know, why did you pick Unleash Potential?
Like the business name?
Yes.
So I am a firm believer of like, I want to be a force of change to help everyone unleash their full potential. So like unleash potential is just something that speaks really highly to me. And I'm always a person who, we spoke about like turning pain into power, but I'm also a person who believes like we are only the story we tell ourselves and we're only the narrative we tell ourselves. So like I want to help people change that narrative or rewrite that narrative so they can reach their full potential.
So what is next for you in the business itself?
I don't know. I have so many ideas going on in my head. Part of me, I might want to go back to school and get my doctorate because I feel like I love learning and I'm always a student at heart. So I don't know. I have a few ideas brewing.
You have a lot going on. You haven't decided to pick which one you want to go with first.
Yes, exactly.
But they're all going to happen eventually.
Yes, exactly. There's no rush. Things come when they're supposed to.
I agree with that. So let's say someone is looking to get your services. So how do they actually really do that? How do they get started with that?
Yep. So people reach out to me either through social media. So I am on Instagram and on Facebook as Unleash Potential Life Coaching. I also have a website, www.unleashpotentiallifecoaching.com. I made a shorter version of that because people have a hard time because it's so wordy. So like www.jessrebelo.com. And on my website, there's a form people could fill out and they could contact me and I will call them. I do a free 20-minute consultation with every new client that wants to work on with me, just to make sure we're both a good fit, to see what they're working on and what they want to work on. And then we'll go from there.
And with the coaching, would you say that when you say you give them 20 minutes, is that the 20 minutes? It's more like a see how you exactly the coaching gonna work, or do you need to mix therapy and then with the life coaching, or exactly things like that?
So it's more just about what the client's looking for. And I'm always curious on like what goals they have, what they've tried in the past, what has been successful, what hasn't been successful, and a little bit about their history to see, like what's making them call me and why now? Like, why do they want, to work on whatever it is they want to work on now?
Do you ever choose not to work with a client?
Yes, at times I definitely do. If I feel like I'm not a good fit for them, or if I feel like I can't appropriately help them, then I don't want to waste their time, and I don't want to give people false hope, because I know asking for help can be really difficult and really hard. So I don't want to give them the false sense of security.
I love that. Not everyone, that answer, if I asked it to like 50 people, I think that only probably 2 of them will answer it the way you did.
Thank you. Thank you.
So any advice for women who want to get into entrepreneurship?
Ooh. Yes, I would say if you have a dream and you have a passion, to just go for it and don't let anything stop you. I think we are our own greatest gift. And I think, if we feed ourselves exactly what we want to give to the world, then I would go for it.
Just go for it. And any words for men and women that's into domestic violence, abusive relationship that feel like they are stuck?
Yep. There's always help out there, and don't feel ashamed. Don't feel guilty by asking for help. Just because you're getting help doesn't mean that person's going to make you change your current situation, but support and someone to talk to is sometimes all we need. And there's, domestic violence hotlines, and, it's very easy to reach out to someone to talk to.
Anything else you'd like to share with us before I let you go today?
No, I think that's it. I think you covered it all.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for being with us, being with me today. I appreciate you taking the time to give me a chance to get to know you, and also share your story and then your business, what you are doing to help not just women but also men that's dealing with that type of situation, because I know a lot of people deal with it, especially with COVID. Both husband and wife, or everyone is home, so that is something easily happen, because it can easily happen if the fact that everyone is home. So it's like it was the perfect time for that to go even higher than it used to be. So I think what you are doing and the way you mix the two, life coaching and therapists together, I think I feel like it's a lot easier for people to open, to feel more comfortable, better than feeling like, do I am supposed to say something here? Is she going to judge me? All these things, because they happen. So I just like the way you put it both together to make them open to you so that you can help them solve the problems.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica, for taking the time to have this conversation with me. Let me know your thoughts about this episode with Jessica. And to learn more about Jessica and Unleash Potential Life Coaching, visit www.unleashpotentiallifecoaching.com. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.